my name is Vesna Karapetrova, and we're here today at the Canadian Macedonian Historical Society on September the 22nd, 2015, to interview Mr. Sam Phillips. Welcome, Mr. Sam Phillips, and thank you for having an interview here with us for the archives of the Canadian Macedonian Historical Society. We're glad you're able to tell us some real history about your life.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here today. Thank you for inviting me.
Yep.
And I was born in 1929 in Nevolijani Aegean School.
Yes.
And yeah.
And then, how about your wife? Can you tell us her name and where she was born?
Yeah, my wife was Anne Phillips, and she was born in Nevolijani, 1937, March the 8th.
Mm-hmm. And how about, we have some nice pictures here from Nevolijani. I believe they're from your wife's parents?
Yes, yes.
Can you tell us who they are?
Yeah. Dedomi is Philip Gula.
They're your wife's?
Yeah, Michael Sakarva. Yeah, my
yes.
wife. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they came here in 1947.
Right, so we have a picture from them when they were in the village,
yeah,
yes. And
yeah.
then the next picture is also with your wife being a little girl and her brother
yeah,
and her mother, right?
Yeah, that's right, because the father was here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the father's not in the picture. But yeah, that's Ted Michael and Sula, and her mother Gula. That's it. Yeah, those are the ones.
And now about your parents. Can you tell us who they are?
Yeah, my parents, my mother, they were from Nevolijani too, you see. But my father is from Phillips, they call them. Phillips. My father's name was Philip, and my mother's name was Magda. And she's from the Strumas family.
And they're both from Nevolijani?
Both Nevolijani. Yeah.
And the picture that we had was?
That was in 1939. My mother and my father and my brother Efto, and I'm there too.
And yourself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was in Nevolijani? The picture when
The
you
picture
came to
when we
Canada?
no, the picture was made here. Yeah. Right, yeah.
Great. And tell us what language you spoke when you were in Nevolijani.
Well, I'll be very honest with you, because I was young, and the Greeks, they tried to stop us from talking Macedonian, and I says, I don't talk to my mother Greek. She doesn't want to speak Greek with me. Well, she almost got into trouble, but she knew all the teachers, so they couldn't do nothing. She says, never mind, she speaks Greek. Don't worry about it. But I would never speak Greek at home. I was Macedonian.
Everybody spoke Macedonian?
Yeah, we speak Macedonian. That's it.
And you mentioned your parents?
Yeah.
And what language did they speak?
My Macedonian, my parents were always Macedonian.
Right.
Always the Macedonian.
And in your village in Nevolijani, what was the language that was mostly spoken?
Well, we kept it Macedonian most, but some of them, they were afraid to talk. They would speak in Greek, you know what I mean? So, you know.
Why were they afraid?
Well, listen, the Greeks, they treated us very, very rough that time. They were very rough, you know. When you see a policeman, you have to salute him. You have to do this, you have to do that. They always, and they were treated as like third-class citizens who were born there, and they occupied the Macedonia, and they're telling you what to do all the time. And you know what I mean? And that was not right. They treated us very rough. And I remember they used to take the old people, you know, all the Bobby and the Dedos, to go to Greek school. How are they going to learn Greek?
So the old people had to learn Greek?
Yeah, they had to go to the Greek school at night. Can you believe it? See, I remember that. And I know how they went, yeah.
And can you tell us who your grandparents were?
My grandparents, from my father's side, were Todor Filipov, okay? And my mother's side was Todor Strumin, from the Strumas family. Yeah, but we don't have pictures of him and pictures of the other, because he was here, then he went to Montreal and everything. He had a business here. My grandfather from my mother's side, but I never had no pictures of any kind, you know.
Right, and you talked about when you were in Nevolijani as a child.
Yeah.
How old were you before you came to Canada?
I was close to 10. See, you can figure we came here November the 5th, 1938. From France we came with the Empress of Britain, the boat.
It was a ship, yes?
Yeah. 5 days we came to Montreal. But where it is now, the question you're asking me again.
When you went to school?
Yeah.
So you went to school in Nevolijani?
Oh yeah, we had to. We had no choice.
Okay, tell us about your school days.
Well, the school days for us, it was, really, they didn't want to educate you, really. You went to school or you didn't go to school, they didn't care. You know what I mean? They want to keep you on the farms. They don't want to give you an education, because if you give you education, then you're going to know what you're doing. But when you don't know what you're doing, you don't harm the country. You just you do what you're told. But if you get some education, hey, just a minute, I know my rights. You know what I mean? So.
And when you went to school, what language did you have to speak?
I have to speak Greek then now at school there. Mm-hmm. You have to see you. If you speak Macedonian, they give you a slap.
They hit you?
Oh yeah, they would.
And you saw this?
Oh yeah, I mean I know. That's why I'm we're kind of upset with the way they treated us.
Mm-hmm. Tell us some of your memories when you were going to school. How old were you when you started?
Well, we were about 4 or 5 years old, because we only went about 3 or 4 years. That's it, 3 years or so. Because in 1938 we had to come here. So, like I say, maybe 5 years. So, January the 29th, 1929, I would have, it would have been 10 years.
Yes.
But because in November, now you figure, November the 5th, December the 5th, in January, about 9 months. I was 9 years and 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
Yes. And when you went to school, what are some of your memories with your friends? What kind of games did you play?
The games, well, like I say, they weren't. I was sleeping half of the time. They tell me, they're putting the finger in my mouth. This lady, he says, the ones that I know, they're my age. He says, you were sleeping. He says, they're putting the finger and I'm sleeping. I says, because everything was boring, and we always take the bread. They used to do the homemade, the one with a chink of lip. So cornbread, yes, a big slice like that. We get them toasted and we put them under our in the seat there in the school, and we eat.
So you were hungry and you were eating.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Now, in terms of the language that you mentioned that you had to speak Greek, do you remember learning it when you were little?
Oh, I knew Greek how to speak.
Yeah.
Because when you're young, you're like magnet. You pick up languages. It's no problem. But we knew the Greek. It still comes to me back now. But many years when you don't use a language for many years, you lose it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But the Greek language, we knew it good.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that when you were you were almost 10 when you came here. What are some other memories of the village that you have? How big was your village?
Well, the village at that time was maybe 900 people or so. Okay. But because, excuse me, no, because my father was not there, he was here, and my mother was working. We're mostly on the streets.
So you spent a lot of time playing?
Playing around because there's nobody, my mother had to work.
Yes.
To support us. See, it's different when you're raised with a mother and a father.
Yes.
Hey, just a minute. You check the boys, but nobody could check us out. We'd be fighting with my brother. He'll be throwing stones because I didn't want to stay home. I wanted to go and play. He didn't like that. He says, "You stay here with me."
Right. And what kind of celebrations or activities do you remember from your village life?
Well, because we were young, there was not too much. Listen, the activities that you get with a broken old ball, you'd be kicking it around and this kind of stuff. Because we never had the proper stuff.
But you played with
what
you had.
Yeah, what you had.
Right.
But it was very, very, not very much around. Not like here.
Right. And then you mentioned that your father was in Canada or the United States.
Canada.
Canada. When did he come?
He came once in 1927 and he stayed till 1936 and he came back in 1936. We built a home there because we were kicked out from my grandfather's place where we stayed. Where we took the laddie here, and
why were you kicked out?
Well, because he not sending money here. He bought them the mill. My father paid $700 at that time.
Yes.
He bought him and no, that didn't come. He was because his mother passed away, so then he lived with the other mother, and it was different.
So your father's father remarried?
No. Yeah, my father's, like my grandfather, he remarried with another lady. See?
So you...
Yeah, so he was more concerned about his own children because my father was not born from that lady. So then they treated him as they didn't treat him right.
So with who did your father come here? Yeah.
With who?
In Canada, you mentioned he
came. He came, but he came. Well, he came from with the boat that time.
Yes, he came with a ship as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when your father was in Canada, he stayed for a few years.
Yeah, about 7, 8, 9 years.
Was he married to your mother at that time?
Oh yeah, we were born.
Oh,
I was born 1929.
So your father stayed just...
Once we were born, that's it.
Then he came here.
Yeah.
So you were really separated from your father for a long time.
Yeah, and I didn't know my father.
You didn't know him?
No, I didn't know him at all.
Yeah. All these years that you were growing up, you were growing up by yourself.
Yeah.
So what was the reason that your father left your village to come to Canada?
What was the reason? Well, they all had to go to work because what are you going to do in the village? There's nothing there. He had to get out to earn some money. And things were not very good here, but they were better than what they were there.
Yes. What did he do in Canada? Did he tell you?
He was working for they worked in the restaurants at that time, for the Greek restaurants. And then he worked for a bottle company. Rahar's brother, the Jewish people. And he worked for them for so many years, but he was in charge. He was looking after everything there. They liked him. So I think, because during the Depression to bring a family here is not easy, okay? But I think the Jewish people, they were very nice to him. And I think he didn't say anything to me or to anyone, but I think the Jewish people asked him, Philip, what kind of family you got? Well, we got 2 boys. Bring them over here. He says, why? And that's how he did it. But there was the Jewish people that convinced him. I mean, there's people here who had restaurants and everything. They kept the families away from me. They didn't bring them here.
But your father...
We were the only family here from the village.
So you were in the village by yourself with your mother and your brother.
That's right.
And what was your mother doing to
In the fields.
to work? She was
Yeah, in the fields. Yeah, they help
with the gardens and
Yeah, in the fields, in the big
farms.
Farms, yeah, in the farms.
She was working
Yeah,
for
yeah.
other people.
Yeah, for other people. Oh, yeah.
Right, and your father was sending you money as well.
Yeah.
And how did it come? How did you feel when you found out that your father wanted to take you to Canada?
Well, let me tell you, when he came there in 1936, he never wanted the Greek people anyway. He was against it because that's how he lost his mother. They had a Kurva Svadba, wedding. They burned. There's 20 some odd people got killed. You know, so that's why he didn't like it. That's what he was against it. And he was only a boy, a young boy, very young.
He was a baby.
Baby, and since then he
and his mother was.
She died. She got
killed?
scared. No, she wasn't killed right away, but she got frightened. The way they were treating her, they were gonna, you know, she was figuring my son, you know, looking after her son. She was petrified.
And this was the village was being attacked.
No, the wedding. The
wedding
in the house, and so what happened? Like I'm saying to you, like when he came back in 1936, he came. We built a brand new house in 1935. And then when he came, he says, "Listen, I'm going back now, but in 2 years I'm going to bring him back to Canada." I said, "Fair enough." 2 years came, 1938 we come right in, just before the war. And that was the best thing that ever happened to us, because during the war, you don't know if you're going to be alive or not.
Yes, and then when you found out that you're going to come to Canada, how did you feel?
Well, we felt good because it was going to be something different. You know what I mean? Because everybody tells you stories.
Yes.
So you know you're going to go somewhere better.
Right.
Yeah, we never looked back. We enjoyed, you know what I mean? And we did come to the best country. First of all, there was a depression here. But we used to eat 25 loaves of bread a week. You know, the Macedonian bread they used to make.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when you left from your village, from Nevolijani, what was your trip like? Where did you go from Nevolijani?
From Nevolijani, we went. The trip started in Lerin, Bitola. We went through Belgrade, Germany. We got into France, and we stayed in France. And we got we went. We were going to pick up the boat. We stayed a couple of days in France, for some reason, and then we took the boat from Sherbrooke. It was a big boat. The small boat took us to the big one, and then 5 days.
You were in the ocean.
Yeah, but we were sick because we're not used to the boats. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We never ate nothing. Because you come from a village, no boats, no nothing, no cars. Even in the car, we used to get sick.
Yes, you weren't used to the movement. No, you weren't.
Yeah.
And how about when you were coming with your journey? Then it was about a few days. You mentioned 5 days.
5 days with the boat, and then we took the train from Montreal.
Yes.
Yeah, and we came here, right on.
What documents did you come with? What kind of passport?
It's a Greek passport. Yeah,
so
it
had.
Greek passport with the three of us, my mother, my brother, and that's it.
So when you came to Montreal with the ship, then you transferred to a train.
Train, yeah.
And where did you land then?
Well, because we landed with these other people that we came with. They were from our village, a couple of them, but they knew the ins and outs. It's just no use to go to the Union Station. We're going to get off at the Down Station.
In the Down
Station, right on King there.
Okay.
And then we walked to King Street. We didn't have to take a taxi or anything because the house was there. 448 King Street we had to go.
That was
That's where the meeting area was.
Uh-huh.
Because that's where these other two people were going to go. So anyway, that's what we ended up. And my father, he went to the Union Station looking for
you
us.
there. Okay.
Anyway.
Yes, you'll tell us how you reunited, but first, can you tell us the name of the ship? Do you remember?
It was called the Empress of Britain.
The Empress of Britain?
Yeah.
And where did it land here in Canada?
In Montreal.
Yes,
Yeah.
Montreal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it got torpedoed during the war. The Germans torpedoed it.
They torpedoed the Empress.
I find that in the archives, where you look it up.
Okay.
You can tell you.
You researched.
Oh yeah, we
Great.
did that, yeah.
Okay, and then, so tell us how you reunited with your father. You landed, you found some friends, and then...
my father had arrangements with the house to rent. Those days, one house was rented, one on the bottom floor and one on the top, because it was $20 a month rent those days. So we already had that, so we went right to the house where he already made arrangements, It was right across from where he worked, right across.
And that was at, what was the address? The place, the main streets?
The Sackville and Sydenham. Sackville and Sydenham it was, right in the corner.
Downtown here in Toronto.
Cabbagetown.
In Cabbagetown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it like when you first saw your father? I know he was waiting for you at Union Station. You already arrived in the house, right?
Well, that temporarily.
Yes.
Because there was a lot of villages. They used to live in one house. Most of the villages. So that's why they went to that house, and from that house we departed.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like when you first met your father?
Well, it was kind of strange because because I saw them in 1936, so I knew my father. It was okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he took you to the new place?
Yeah, he took us to the new area where we stayed there.
And
we went to school there. The school was right next door.
What school was that?
Park School.
Park School. So tell us about your beginning life here in Canada when you first started going to school. You lived in Cabbagetown?
Yeah, in Sydenham. We lived in Sydenham.
Sydenham.
Yeah, we let me tell you now. Okay, the house where we rented, we only stayed there for about a year or so. Then in 1939, we bought the house. It was 145 Sydenham for $900. We bought the house that time, and with Park School was right across. So we were kind of rough around the edges when we came here because like I say, we're not raised with a father, not too much discipline. Okay, so now Mrs. Gordon, she was this guy, I still remember her name. And we're fooling around.
You were playing with marbles?
Yeah. She said, we don't do that here. No. See, right away now, we're learning. They're teaching you manners, and that's the boy. This place is good. They're telling you exactly how to be. Because they never teach you that. How they strap you. You know what I mean? In Greece it was different. But here, the education system is a lot better. Oh, yeah. They teach you like a human being, not like an animal.
And you felt there was a big difference?
Oh, yeah. I would like that. It was good, yeah.
What was it that you really disliked from the schooling back in Nevolijani?
Well, there was nothing. They don't teach you nothing there. You know what I mean? There was nothing. It was nil. No, it was. There's no comparison at all. I used to have a fellow come into the restaurant when I had the place in Gerard Street, a Greek guy. He was on Bond Street. He's teaching Greek school, and he used to come in the restaurant. And I talked to him. I said, "Listen, you're a teacher." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Tell me," I says, "how you find the teaching standards here?" I says, "comparing to Greece." Oh, it's just a lot different here. I said, those people, they don't teach you nothing there in Greece. I said, come on.
Okay, and then, so you really liked starting school here? Was it a very different system?
We enjoyed it. We liked school. The only time we find it bad was during the summer because there's no school.
And how far did you go in school at the beginning? You went to park school?
I went to park school, then I went to vocational school.
Yes.
Learned a trade. I'd learned how to do a lathe. I was a machine in a machine shop.
Machine shop?
And then I took some tailoring. And the only thing is, it was pretty tough those days. Once you got 16, you could work. And that time it was during the war. A lot of people, there was not too many people available to work. So we could get jobs in there. So they used to hire me. I was 16 years old. I'd get a job in Basil's. You know what I mean? Big places.
So you started to work when you were 16?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And what was your first job?
The very first job, we were working for 10 cents an hour, where my father worked there, washing the bottles and grinding the name of the thing, because they used to reuse the bottles all the time.
And what company was that?
Roher brothers. Roher, they was Jewish people.
Mm-hmm. And they were producing bottles.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they sent them to Hamilton, everywhere they used to deliver them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that was when we were very young from school. Yeah, 10 cents an hour. But then after that, like I said, we got a good jobs. We were doing okay, you know.
So was this the whole family? Your brother as well was working in the same place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how did you continue in terms of your work and your career?
Well, we stuck to the restaurants mostly, because it was, you get your food, you eat.
Did you work in a restaurant, or did you
I used
buy
to-
a restaurant?
Oh, after I bought a restaurant.
So first,
But you can't. You have to be 21 years of age to buy a restaurant.
did your father buy the first restaurant?
No, my
No.
father never had a restaurant.
No.
He worked for Lever Brothers, soap, palm olive soap, and that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, when you got older,
I
how did
bought-
you decide to buy a restaurant?
Well, listen.
You worked in a restaurant?
Yeah.
What restaurant was that?
Well, first was a classic lunch on Gerard Street.
Were there Macedonian people who owned it?
Yeah,
Do you remember their names?
Gino. Chris Gino, his name was.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one that we bought it from them. And when they told us that they were there 13 years, I said, oh my God, how did they stand 13? And we were there for 16 years.
So you worked in the restaurant first, and then you bought it?
No, we bought it right up.
Oh, you bought it right away?
Yeah. There's a picture there.
Yes, this is a picture of you and your restaurant.
And that's with a big apron.
Okay, so
Right?
that's
Am I
right.
Yeah.
And tell us the name again of the restaurant?
Classic lunch.
Classic Lunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of restaurant was it?
What was the regular food? Real good food, okay?
Uh-huh.
We used to have a good menu, good, like, we used to have spare ribs, beef stew, like real hearty meals, good meals. But don't forget, those meals those days were 60 cents a meal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like now.
Who did the cooking?
Oh no, we had to get my chef. We had the chefs that knew how to do those things.
Were they Macedonian as well?
Yeah, Macedonian. We hired Macedonian. You can't hire Chinese because you can't get it together.
Right.
Yeah.
So the chef and all the workers.
Oh, Macedonian. Everybody was Macedonian.
Mm-hmm. And did
Yeah,
you
my
speak?
people.
You speak Macedonian in the restaurant?
Yeah. Everybody. All the people that we hired, they were Macedonian.
Were many of them newcomers? Who were
a lot of newcomers too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, how did you progress in terms of? So you had the classic lunch restaurant, right?
Yeah, but then I had another place in Brampton.
Brampton.
Brampton,
Uh-huh.
Brampton. It was in 1950 I went there.
Was that your first place in Brampton?
No, second. Second place. Yeah, that place in Brampton was 9,000 people when I was there. Now there's about 500,000, but everybody knew me there.
In
It was
Brampton.
it was a junction diner. It was right in the corner. There was 2 streetcars to put together. That's how they got the diner.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it was actually
good.
two streetcars.
2 streetcars, yeah, together, side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody told me about it, so I went to look at it. I'll buy the place. I said, and I did. And we did very good there.
Yeah. Sam, tell us about the interesting story of an attempted robbery at your restaurant.
Right. This fellow that was working for us, he was having a hard time with his in-laws there. He was living with them together, and they were always giving him a hard time, you know. So he got fed up. So he says to me, first of all, he had a little gun. It looked like real. He said, why don't you take it and give it? I said, I got a lot of guns at home. I said, the kids don't need guns. I said, it looked like real. And anyway, he says, can you show me $10,000, how many zeros there is? I said, I'll show you. I said, okay, thank you very much. I wrote it. He goes down to Queen and Lee, and he goes to the bank with a shopping bag, and he says, give me the money. But the gun was not a real gun. And he was so excited. The money was flying all over the sidewalks. You know what I mean? So then, let me tell you what happened. And I'm going to work, and I'm reading the paper. I get this, and I see, Jim Dines robs Comedy of Errors. Comedy of Errors. He goes to rob the bank. The money are flying all over the side. So anyway, I go back and I said, this. I told him what happened. I read it in the newspaper. That's what he did to this man. Yeah, but not to nobody gonna rob the restaurant. He was just a worker. He was a good guy. Like, you know, he wouldn't steal from us. Nothing. He was honest. But he was having a lot of trouble at home. Anyway, so much for Jimmy Dines.
And tell us how, then, you mentioned then you had several restaurants.
Yeah, but
tell us.
Well, I had the Junction Diner, and then in 1972, we went and opened the Tiffany Steakhouse on Airport Road.
Where was it?
Right across right across from the airport.
Airport.
Yeah, I saw this place on the newspaper. It was for rent on Airport Road, 7,000 square feet. I said, that looks pretty good, I says to me. And it's right across from the airport, there's no restaurants there. I says, we're gonna do good, I says, over there. So we got 3 or 4 partners, 2 were silent and 2 working. But we worked hard there.
And your partners were Macedonian?
Oh yeah, Macedonian all the time. I don't fool around with the Greek people.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
And then while you were progressing in your business with the restaurants, how about in terms of your personal life? Did you get married?
I got married in 1954, October the 3rd, 1954, okay? My wife, she was 17.
How did you meet your wife?
Well, when they first came, well, first of all, they're from my village, we knew each other, but they lived right next door to us. And we were 145, they were 147, right next door.
And your wife's name?
Anne Phillips, Sula, Anne.
And her maiden name from the family?
Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, she was Michael, yeah. So
you met next door?
Yeah.
She was the girl next door, yes?
And in 1953, they got talking about it. I said, oh, okay. And I went fishing.
Yes?
And then next thing you know, I'm engaged.
So tell us about that. What happened?
That's what happened.
How did it happen?
Well, it happened. The words got around and everything else. But in the meantime, I'm fishing.
Okay.
For smelts that time I went.
So your family, your parents were involved in arranging?
Oh, yeah. They're all together. They're all putting the offers in.
So is this how it used to happen in Nevolijani?
Yeah.
So it was a real Macedonian wedding arranged right from the beginning.
Yeah.
But you knew each other. That was the difference, right?
Yeah.
You knew each other.
Oh yeah, I knew the father. I worked with the father and everything. I knew them. Yeah.
So then you came back from fishing and you found out that you're engaged, right?
Well, I knew something was boiling, but anyway, we got it fixed up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you were happy?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. 60 years we were married together.
You were married
yeah,
60
years. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you had a wedding, and as your life progressed, we have a nice picture of you. Tell us about your children.
Yeah. Larry and Vicky.
Where did you live at that time when they were little?
We lived on Cosburn. We lived on Cosburn when they were born.
In East York?
East York, yeah.
Cosburn?
Yeah, and then we stayed there for so many years, and then we moved to Finch and Bayview.
Yes.
Finch and Bayview. We stayed there for 13 years. 18 years we were on Cosburn.
Mm-hmm.
See, Larry went to university, and my daughter went to Seneca College. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I was more central, and for me to go to the airport was very easy.
So by this time you had your airport restaurant?
Oh yeah.
And who were your partners in your restaurant?
Well, there was my brother-in-law Ted Michael, and Fred Spiroff, and Louis DeVitkus.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the year that you got married was?
1954.
1954. And what
October.
church?
Church, St. George's Church, 17 Regent Street.
Yes. Was this the church that you were attending?
Yeah. Well, listen. My father was a member there. During the Depression, he was not making much money, but he was always donating there. His name is in the thing, in the plaque there. Mm-hmm. In the medal.
Yes.
Philip Theodoro. That's the way he was. Philip Theodoro. Mm-hmm. His name, and he was always with the churches. Yeah, and he always supported the churches.
Yes.
Always, yeah.
And what was the rest of your activities with the Macedonian community? Did you attend any picnics?
Oh yeah.
What kind of
activities? any picnic. United Macedonians when they make it. And look, I used to go all over. Even when Ontario Street, where the Macedonian.
The Želevo Club?
No, Želevo was on front. Just a minute. It's way up near St. Clair there. Želevo, the club there.
And what was on Ontario?
Ontario was the Macedonian. Lots of Macedonians there.
There were lots of Macedonians there.
Virginia was going there. They were doing the orchestra. She was playing the mandolin, whatever.
Okay.
Anyway.
And tell us about your last name, Phillips. How did you get your last name?
How did I get my name? Well, that's the way it came from. Right from Oak Country. It was Phillips, because we used my father's name. See, my father used his father's name, Theodoro. We used my father's name, Philip.
Okay, so when
that's how we get. Yeah, but that's what it was. We didn't have to change no names or nothing. That's the way it is in the passports and everything.
Was it Filipov or
Phillips?
Phillips.
Yeah,
that's how it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then as you were getting involved in the Macedonian community, you mentioned the United Macedonians.
Yeah. Well, I used to be involved with the soccer. We used to play. The churches used to have soccer teams. St. George's had soccer. St. Cyril's had soccer. You know what I mean?
And you were in the teams?
Yeah, we used to play. With John Bitoff, we used to play.
You were playing
with Steve Stavro.
Soccer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You remember playing for a particular team?
Well, we played for St. George's team.
So everybody had their own team.
Yeah.
And you were on the St. George's team.
Yeah, like Steve Stavro, what's his name, Bitoff there. They were all together. And my brother.
John Bitoff and your brother.
And we had lots of other boys.
Everybody was on the same St. George's team.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of other social activities
we used to go bowling with
Yes, Virginia, tell us about the bowling.
Well, bowling we used to go. Virginia knows.
What was it called? It was the Young Macedonian?
There was a Macedonian Bowling League.
Married couples, right?
Yeah, we married couple. We'd be here at O'Connor. And it was good. It was that's the way they keep together, the Macedonians. They stick together. Yeah, now they hang around with coffee on Fairview.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Now, when you were with the Macedonian bowling team,
Yeah.
there were many Macedonian couples there.
Oh yeah, they're all Macedonian, but mostly you know what I mean. They're relatives, you know. Here's my cousin, his sister, brother, and John Novak. They used to sell sausages, right, Virginia?
And did you have any functions, any dances with the group?
Oh yeah, well, we used to have banquets, and social activities, you know. Yeah.
Did you have them at a particular place?
Well, particular place. Banquets, they used to go in the restaurants. The Drive restaurant used to have a banquet hall there on the Coxwell. We used to have some of the bowling, you know, the bowling banquets that we used to keep them. Yeah, I used to win some trophies. I win there.
You won trophies
So, yeah.
for
Yeah,
the bowling, so
Yeah.
you were a really
high three.
pretty good
Oh,
bowler.
yeah, 1,000.
So that's great. Did you bowl? Was it together with your wife, or were the men separate and the women separate? Or
Excuse me, at that time, yeah, just a minute, that's right. Yeah, I think so. No, but she never bowled Sula.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
so you were a good bowler from
yeah,
those days.
Yeah.
Okay, and tell us about any other, like how you had progressed after that, in terms of your children were going to school and they went to university.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, because what we went through, we didn't want our kids to go through. You know, I says, you're not going to work until you're 16. Yeah, I had to go to work when I was 12 years old. Okay? You don't need to. You get lots of time for working. Go to school and use your head. That's your tools, I says. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Larry went to university. My grandchildren, two of them, they finished university. So, you know what I mean? Those are the working tools.
Right. And we have a really nice picture with you and your whole family now. Can you tell us about your grandchildren?
Well, I got Emily there. She's the younger granddaughter. You know, the granddaughter. She's in New York. She went to university in Kingston, Queen's University. And Andrew is a couple of years older. He went to Queen's University too. He's in Vancouver. But Emily's got a very good job there, and she works at the Empire State Building. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And I know your son has a very interesting career. Can you tell us what he does?
Oh.
He's quite famous in the Macedonian community.
Larry, yeah. he went through a lot of things there too, but he got into the gold business, Larry. That's what he with the Africans. He was doing business back and forth. He went up 125 times in Africa doing business. We worked 20 years for the company, and so he did very well with them. And there were four of them that started that gold company, and none of them knew about mines, gold mines. But Larry, he was a spokesman. He was doing all the wheeling and dealing there with the. Now that I find out when he retired, I find out that he was running the whole show there. I didn't know that. You know.
Okay, that's good. And we'll have Larry in at the end of the interview to greet us and say hello and tell us just a little bit about himself and his life and success.
He can do it better.
I'm sure he'll have information.
I know,
You're right.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay, and then we have a nice picture here of the whole family. I believe your parents as well. Tell us about them. It's a 50th anniversary?
That was my mother's 50th anniversary.
And did they stay with you? Is that how?
No, we all had separate houses.
Uh-huh.
My brother had a separate house. We never stayed together. We stayed at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but then, you know, they went, you know, I bought a house, then my brother had a house, and my father had a house, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what we did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And Sam, tell us a little bit more about, you know, you made sure that your small restaurant business really grew because you did have several restaurants and are very successful in your business. Tell us how you what helped you to go ahead and invest in the business and grow the business.
Well, let me tell you. First of all, when you get some experience and you see what the places I worked, I got my experience in Basil's restaurant that time. He was a very busy place. We used to serve 3,000 people a day.
Tell us about where Basil Restaurant is.
Gerard and Young.
And who owned Basil's restaurant?
He's a Greek fellow.
Okay.
Yeah, he owned it. But we were serving like 3,000 people. That's a lot of people a day for 100 people working there.
Mm-hmm.
But you see what he's doing. So you get ideas. You know what I mean? You use them. You know, you just don't close your eyes and see what goes on. And that's
you learned a lot.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to pick up things. You can't just go there, you know, and learn nothing. You know what I mean? So that's how it is. And you apply that. You know, and you give people good food. They're not stupid. They know what's good and what's not good.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And how about your wife? Was she part of your business as well?
Well, she was first of all she was a cosmetologist. You know what that is, don't you?
Tell us a little bit about her work.
You know what's a cosmetologist? Hairdresser.
Yes.
Right, Virginia? Anyway, so now she was doing that for a while. But then...
Did she have her own salon?
Yeah, she was working from home.
From home, okay.
So now, once we got to the restaurant, we needed to get somebody to be as a hostess to look at. So she finally got into that, and she learned quite a bit. She learned to do the bar. She learned this. She used to take over everything. Everything was smooth.
So she worked for the restaurant as well.
Yeah, but
you grew the business together.
Yeah, but she had that classy way of doing things, Oh, how you doing, Mr. Brown? Hey, Mr. Taylor,
So she had very good people skills. She was a good hostess.
Yeah. She always mentioned the names. She could remember. And a lot of them would say, here's a card. Next time call me. They all want to know their name, Mr. Sos. They like that, people,
Mm-hmm.
So, but she was good with that. With the people.
And then did she continue working?
Yeah, until the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we did all right with that.
And then you continued to have the restaurants
still?
No.
Eventually... Then I was over 61 years old, so we threw the towel then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that you traveled quite a bit.
Oh.
Tell us about your interesting trips.
Well, first of all, we traveled even before that. From coast to coast we've been, with the family.
Canada? You saw Canada, yes?
East up to Nova Scotia. I haven't been to Newfoundland. That's another boat you gotta take to go to there. Anyway, but we went 3 times in Australia.
And do you have relatives there?
Yeah, we have some relatives there. My wife has the relatives there in Adelaide, Australia. And we went to Australia, to Tasmania, and New Zealand, all those areas, because 3 times, I know more about Australia than the Australians know, because they never travel. I met some people at Green Island. My son knows where the Green Island is. And we went to see that place. And we stayed in a hotel, and I meet the soldiers. There was a bunch of soldiers there, Australian soldiers. I says, listen, I says, it's your summer here. How come your highways are not busy at all here? I says, I come from Canada. I says, guys, summertime, I says, it's bumper to bumper to get on the 401 or the 400. So he says, Australians, he says, 25 miles this way or 25 miles that way. That's as far as they go, he says.
Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah. So,
but you traveled quite a bit, and I understand
we
you had
drove.
and you drove, yes? And
drove
then
everywhere.
you also went overseas to
Oh,
your
yeah.
village to Nevolijani in
And then
Macedonia. Tell us about your trip there.
Well, because we've been to the islands before in Greece, okay? We took the island the first time we went there. And the second time we went, we didn't go, but my daughter and my grandchildren, they went, They went to the islands and see which was nice. But we went to the village. We went ahead of them to set up the place where we're going to stay, the house, to get some groceries, to get, because you can't go into an empty house.
So you went right to your own house?
Well, no, these people, they're cousins of my wife. They built a brand new house there, brand new. Yeah, so,
and
you
were their guest?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So you and your wife made preparations, and then
the
your children came? Was it your daughter and your son at that time?
Yeah, the whole family.
The whole family?
The whole family. My daughter, my son, my grandchildren, my daughter-in-law, everybody. Yeah.
And what was that trip like?
Oh, we really enjoyed it. I think they want to go there again.
Uh-huh. You stayed in the village most of the time?
Oh, we traveled.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we traveled coastal, different places.
Mm-hmm.
We went through the mountains. Oh, we drive up there, take a look. It's deep.
Pretty steep, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And what was it about Nevolijani that your kids liked and remembered?
Well, they see the people that are just low key, like, they just, easy going. The elderly people, they're not going anywhere. We had some people, they asked us, where did you go? Oh, we went over there. How is it over there? Well, it's not too bad. And he's living there, and he hasn't been over there yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They never traveled to go and see.
Right.
You know what I mean? Coastal, and they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
Do you have any relatives in Nevolijani when you went? Did you see any of them?
Not too many. Not too many of our Nevolijani. No. The very first year I had a cousin. As a matter of fact, we're driving, with my son, we're driving. I said, stop. I said, that's my cousin. It's right on the road there, because his house is right on the road there.
Now, was he another Phillips?
No. He's not a Philip. He was Chicken. What the heck is his last name? Anyway,
yeah,
he'll come to me.
But there are the Phillips. There are quite a few Phillips families here in Toronto.
I know. Yeah.
Are you related?
No,
Tell us about that.
No, we're not. We're not related with any of them. Mm-hmm. Now, how they got Phillips, I don't know. We use my father's name. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not. I know Paul Phillips. I know them. You got Lou Phillips. He's here.
Mm-hmm.
He lives here, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And you came really to Canada as a child, as a young boy, and you didn't have a lot of you didn't have a lot of resources at that time.
No, tell me about it. Big time.
Tell us about that.
Well, listen. It was very tough that time. 5 cents looked very big, a lot. We went to Niagara Falls, so we couldn't buy an ice cream for 5 cents. Okay, we took the boat. My mother got a big jar of dill pickles, in a big gallon, because we had my uncle, my couple of uncles. There was about 5, 6 of us there, so so they can eat and that. But that's how we traveled. But we didn't have no money to buy anything, so it was very, very tough.
But you managed to really build a very good business.
Oh yeah.
And you had a very successful restaurant
yeah,
business.
Yeah.
What advice would you like to give to the young generation of Macedonians in terms of how to have a successful life here in Canada?
Well, how to have a successful, listen, it's just like sports. You have to work hard to be a top-notch guy. You have to work hard. Restaurants or any business, it's not any different. You got to work hard. You got to put a lot of hours, and you got to be honest with people. Don't cheat people, because people, that's the way. Once you cheat, doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to lose them. Mm-hmm. You got to be very honest. My grandson, when we were going to Scotland, he says, he says, what does it take to be a good operator? I says, look, first of all, if you ask him for a restaurant, I says, you got to keep the restaurant clean. I says, clean. I says, okay, that's number one. Number two, I says, you have to give them good food. You price it right, but it has to be good food, nourishing food, and don't try to cheat them. If you try to cheat them, they know. You're not going to see them again. There's no second chance. They don't tell you nothing, but you're going to lose them. So people have to, when they see you're honest, they're not worried. The customers we had, they didn't worry about me. They know. I wouldn't cheat them. Mm-hmm. Listen, customer comes in there sometime. We make a mistake on the check, $10. We find out his number. We call the American Express. We say, listen, we charge you, whoever charge you. Oh my God, it's first time I hear that. He says, people call me, they're overcharged. I said, $10 we owe you. I said, see? No, $10 is not going to make me. Where are you going to go with the $10? Give it back. It belongs to him.
Mm-hmm. And talking about giving, you've also given a lot from your to the Macedonian community. I know you've donated.
Oh, we try. Yeah, we
yes,
try.
and you've donated, and you continue to do so.
Oh yeah. I like that. That's nothing.
Yeah. Tell us your reason for doing that. For being a donating to the community.
Well, listen, everybody should be like that. You have to give back what we've been fortunate. God's been good to us. We could afford it. You do it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's the way you have to be. It's not always just to get. What about the other people? So you donate some. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You have to. That's life. If everybody's going to be like that, you can't make it. How is this hospitals? How are they going to keep going? Mm-hmm. People have to donate to those places.
And I know you've been involved with the Macedonian community. Tell us about your reason for your involvement in donating, in working, in volunteering.
Well, listen, I've been pretty busy, with the restaurant there, what I had. But when they come to me, I never turn my back to them. Mm-hmm. That's the easiest thing to do. So, they have a function, you have to help out. That's the way I know it. If you got it. If you don't have it, it's different.
And your reason for helping?
Well, it makes you feel good about it.
Helping people that are from your community?
Yeah, I like
seeing
that.
them involved?
Yeah. And that's, like I say, that's even there's lots of young people, they're making good money, some of them. They should donate more to the Macedonian cause. Mm-hmm. That's the way I see it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to interview you.
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate your support as well. And we wish you all the best in the coming years.
And thank you very much for having me here.
And I understand that we have your son who's visiting us here.
He can put something.
And
he can do. He can put it together better than I can.
He can definitely add to your story. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome, Larry. We're really happy that you're here with us. We just completed an interview with your Father Sam Phillips, and now it's a pleasure to have you also join us in the interview. Tell us where you were born, when, and how your childhood progressed here.
Sure. Well, actually, I was born right here in East York, 1956, and grew up really all through grade school, junior high, and high school in East York, right on Cosburn Avenue.
Were there Macedonian children also on your street or around the area?
Well, in the broader East York community, yes, we had cousins living in East York and others that I eventually went to school with. But in our immediate neighborhood, I guess I was one of the few Macedonian-speaking kids. In fact, we only spoke Macedonian in the home growing up until maybe a year or two before going to school. And I know one story my mom used to tell was sending us off to play at a neighbor's home at a very young age to visit. And I'd come back and she said, well, how are the kids there at the home? And I said, well, they were nice kids, but they're not very smart. They couldn't talk. I'm talking to them. They don't understand anything I'm saying. So
and you were speaking
Macedonian? Of course, I was speaking Macedonian, and they were speaking English, or could have been Italian, could have been, but not Macedonian. And just listening to my dad chatting with you, we were a very close family, just my sister and I, my mom and dad. So we had lots of close family time, trips and cottages and traveling. We were at home all through high school, of course. With having all four grandparents coming from the same village in Macedonia.
This is Nevolijani, right?
Nevolijani. Cousins, relatives, our immediate Macedonian community in Toronto, all related to that same village. So the stories of what happened there and who was there and houses and events and history were all filtering through to us as we were growing up. And so when we got a chance to actually, not until, in my case, I was married and had kids, to actually go back to the village, because my parents went back for holidays and visiting there as we were growing up or going to school, working. But it wasn't until 2007?
No.
2004 that we planned this trip, because it was around an anniversary for my parents, and we thought, we've heard all these stories, my kids have heard these stories, so to go to the village, it was a kind of closing a loop from what you pictured and what you'd heard about and what you'd passed on to your kids, to now walk down those streets, and this is the house, and this was the school, and this was the church, and the village square. I would say all of us were struck by, it was much smaller. When you talk about the village and my dad or mom, oh yes, we were running through the fields, or we'd be playing through the streets and the city square or the town square, and the house had a balcony and all of these. And when you got there, the streets, you had to walk single file, or the village square was, you couldn't turn a bus around or a car around, right? So it was, that was interesting.
Did you meet any people there?
We did.
Yes?
We did. We talked to people, neighbors. We had coffee or drinks at the end of the day in the little wine patio, and you'd chat there if you.
And what language were you speaking with the people?
Well, we were speaking mostly English, and in fact, when we went back to the village, I would say some of the relatives that we did meet, they were more comfortable speaking Greek. Like, they were not as fluent in Macedonia. So we spoke English, because I can't speak Greek. I can still speak Macedonian. enough to be understood, and certainly can understand it when it's being spoken. So we took lots of pictures, lots of video. As my dad said, I think the kids came away with a very lasting impression, and a very positive one in terms of the countryside and the the physical geography there.
Yes, and you mentioned that that many people, some of the people spoke Greek and were very comfortable speaking that. From your father's experience, could you tell us why that might be so?
Well, I mean, I know there was a different era when he was growing up in terms of how language and culture was being imposed or controlled. I think it was a comfortable time when we were there in 2007, and most of the people had just sort of adapted into the lifestyle there in terms of business or education. If they were content with the opportunities that were available, they were there. People that wanted something different or different sort of opportunities maybe felt they had to move elsewhere if they wanted to run a business or a profession.
Right.
These were smaller, not just villages, but they were farm economies. So if you weren't part of the farming economy and running shops that were part of that, then I could see how people would look, to move elsewhere to a bigger city or even a different country.
And there they'd be speaking Greek for sure if they went out of the village. Yeah, but some of the older people did speak Macedonian in Nevolijani?
My recollection is yes, they did. And again, overall, I would say people who were there because the opportunities were a fit for them seemed to be content. They were comfortable with their lifestyle. They're comfortable with how life progressed there.
Right, and in terms of your own career here in Canada, can you tell us a little bit about how your career developed?
Well, as my dad said, education was something that was stressed in our home, that it was an opportunity to get qualifications so that you didn't have to work for someone else. If you had a profession, you could be your own boss.
And what was your education in?
I became interested in law, so I became a lawyer. It was quite natural for me. I enjoyed the reading, I enjoyed the challenge of it, and initially my practice was about community, so I'd be working with friends, family, community members on small businesses, their wills, their real estate transactions, things like that. So it was not unlike running a restaurant, because you develop something, but now you're working with people that you had to work hard for. They had to trust you. You had to, feel a responsibility to do the right thing in the right way. So, just listening to the chat today, I think, we were equipped to go out and, whether it's a profession or some other business, we were equipped through the examples that we were exposed to growing up, even in the restaurant where we worked part-time. So the lessons that we learned really is what we applied. Now, your degree gave you some qualifications to be able to do something specific, but I think the principles, as I look back, you're taught to be entrepreneurial, to run what it takes to run a business. You have to do all of those things. You have to be prepared to take some risk, and the safest route isn't always the most interesting and isn't the one that always gives you the best opportunity. So that I guess applied when I had an opportunity after practicing law for about 10, 12 years to do a different type of business, which was to set up what was originally an exploration company. But the exciting part was it was with some interesting people also very entrepreneurial. There were four of us, and it was in Africa, which is a place I'd never been to. So having lived in Toronto all my life, really within a small area, it was a big step out of your comfort zone. And but because we were encouraged to get that law degree, if it didn't work out, you could always go back and hang out your shingle and go back to the practice of law. And so
what was your business?
it was a company called I Am Gold that we created. It was exploring for gold in West Africa, and very quickly was successful in identifying a gold deposit that became a gold mine, and the company progressed and became a very successful public company that I was involved with for over 20 years, and got a chance to meet fascinating people from all over the world: Asia, Australia, South America, different countries, different cultures. I think, again, applying some of those same principles of, if you're meeting people and you're doing business, they have to appreciate that you're trying to do your best. They have to expect that you're going to be honest with them, and so that they have to be honest with you. It was, I mean, looking back, it went by very quickly because you were so busy. In my case, I was outside of the country probably 20, 24 weeks of the year. And so in that sense, our family was different because my wife Judy was home looking after the kids, and I was out building the business and doing that work. So it was a little different from our family, but if you go back one more generation, it was probably more like my grandfathers, who both came and spent 7, 8 years here working while the family was somewhere else trying to provide for them. So, there's some
interesting
parallels.
Parallels, yes, that's very interesting that you made that parallel. And also, as you were talking about community, as you were growing up, tell us about your involvement in the Macedonian community and the activities that were that you attended, being part of the Nevolijani village.
Well, really on two fronts. The village association was large and active. My dad and my mom were both active in the village association. My dad was past president, spent several years
In the
heading up
Nevolijani.
in the association. So they would have picnics. They'd have a dance at Christmas. They'd have a dance at Easter. There'd be trips, ladies' trips to Niagara Falls and so on. And when we were younger, the ladies would bring the kids on those trips. So because we had so many relatives from Nevolijani, all four grandparents, that was a community that we just not only participated in, but we were related to. So most of those families and friends we grew up with, if they weren't actual cousins, you kept in touch with them as if they were cousins or aunts and uncles. And so that involved cottages. Many of the families had cottages in the same location up in Palm Beach, and the adults used to joke that when they had a lamb roast or a picnic, there might be more people at that set of cottages in Palm Beach on that weekend than there are in the village back in Nevolijani.
Yes.
St. George's Church was another one. As my dad said, both my grandmother on his side, my dad's mom and dad, longtime supporters of the church. So from there we evolved into the youth group at the church. We got involved with the youth tournaments, the YMPO tournaments for kids. We traveled, and then I ended up getting involved in a band because I played trumpet. So we had a group orchestra called the Balkan Brass that we ended up playing some of those events, some of the conventions and things, and so those circles of friends. In fact, still to this day, every second Tuesday, there's a group of about 8 to 10 of my generation who get together for lunch. This was one of their days today, but
You mentioned the Balkan
Balkan brass, yeah.
Yes. Well, who are the other members?
Well, Peter Mladenov's
Yeah,
two sons, Evan and Neil, played in the band. The other members, the two Dragunov brothers, Louis and George Dragunov, and then Chris German played the accordion. So we had a lot of fun with that. We made a record, and even now to this day, my dad's in Florida, and there's a band member of his generation from Fort Wayne, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he says, "Oh yeah, your son's part of the Balkan Brass. So next time he comes down here, he's got to bring his trumpet, and we're gonna, play at one of the picnics down there." So it's I think the roots are and the connections are relevant to us because we're a small community. I think it would be I think it's different if you're part of the Italian Canadian community or German community, because there's so many now. There are not that many Macedonian families or names or people that you don't know, directly or indirectly over the years. You've touched or been involved or crossed paths with most of the community. So it's easy to feel connected and that you belong.
Right, and tell us about your own family in terms of your children, your wife.
Well, my wife is American. She's not Macedonian. She's from Connecticut. Came to Canada as a nurse at Sick Kids Hospital, and that's just over 30 years ago. So she's now spent more of her life in Canada than the United States. And she was the head of the household because, as I said, I was traveling so much. So she raised two kids, our son and daughters, both.
Can you tell us their names and what they're doing? Yeah.
Well, our son Andrew, the eldest, very socially conscious, very much engaged in church community, engaged in social agencies. He's working out in Vancouver with a social services public health group there, and thriving and very much passionate about that, helping of people less fortunate. Our daughter was a business graduate and was fortunate enough to work in London and Toronto in the banking industry, and then had an opportunity to move to New York with my wife being American. They're both dual citizens. So she's, as my dad said, she's working in the Empire State Building with a company called LinkedIn. So she's part of the high-tech world now, and thriving there. I think they still consider Toronto home, and they very much relate to their Macedonian heritage. Even if they had not gone to the village, I think that would still be the case, because being the only grandchildren and living in the same city growing up as my mom and dad, they had a lot of connection, a lot of time. If we were away or visiting, they were like second parents. So they understand that history, I think, and they appreciate it, and they relate to it. The values and the principles that I think we as a community share or value, they carry with them where they are.
And you're continuing to support the Macedonian community. I know that you're a valued donor of the Macedonian Children Relief Fund and help a lot in the fundraising of events. Can you tell us maybe other things that you've been also involved in the Macedonian
well, over the years,
yeah.
we've been certainly through the Macedonian Senior Citizens Home gala events.
The Canadian Macedonian Place, where we are right now?
Exactly. In the early years, and through the years, participating in some of the fundraising events, tribute dinners, things of that nature.
You contributed as a business, like with your father's restaurants and your own?
Well, no, this would just be personal involvement
Okay.
when I was working with the gold company.
Mm-hmm.
And then, within the community, also touching on a lot of Macedonian patients on the healthcare side, we were, as a family, quite involved with our Toronto East General Hospital. And so I was on the board there for 10 years, and a lot of the Macedonian community within East York, that was their family hospital. That was where they were coming for services. So we were involved in the palliative care group. We started an East York Old Boys organization that includes a few Macedonian East York high school friends of mine.
And what is the aim of the group?
Well, this group originally made a commitment to the hospital to build a portion of the palliative care facility there, so a lounge and so on. So we I guess over the years we've contributed through golf events and things.
Attending the annual fundraising golf event for the Canadian Macedonian Place?
Well, now we set up our own event, which was specific to the hospital.
Okay.
In the case of my dad and I, over the years, we'd go to the Macedonian Open
Yes.
golf tournament, which over the years, I guess, has been contributing some of those proceeds to the Macedonian Place.
And I just wanted to, as we spoke with your father, and he explained it so well, I just wanted to ask you and let you know that this interview is going to be viewed online by many Macedonian and young people who are interested in finding out more about our community. You've certainly had a very successful career and great involvement in the Macedonian community as well. Can you have any advice for our young viewers as to what they can do in their path in their life to to have a meaningful and successful life here in Canada?
Well, I would echo some of the points that my dad made. You have to be prepared to work hard. You have to be patient. Things don't happen overnight, and there are going to be ups and downs in any path that you choose. I think now, looking ahead as a young person in Canada or any North American setting, I think you have to be prepared to be adapting your approach. So if you set your sights in one direction, it's important that you're persistent, that you stick with it. But you also have to go where opportunity leads. And I think in my dad's era, people would take up restaurant or another type of work, and they'd look to be on that path for 25, 30 years. I'll do this till I retire. And maybe that was still true when I started. I think now, I had an opportunity to lecture. I was the executive in residence for 3 years at the Queen's School of Business. So lecturing to kids and mentoring graduate students, the reality was that by the time they were 35, they might be in 4 or 5 different jobs. They might have to take different steps sideways in order to find their way forward. So they have to kind of take some basic skills, if it's communication, if it's problem solving, financial analysis. You have to take what your strengths are and then be open to moving into different companies, different directions in order to keep moving forward. And I think in our circumstance, we look at that as being uncertain. Or what are you going to do next? Or you're not sure if your kids are secure or going to be fine. I don't think young people who are successful look at it that way. They look at it as an opportunity. I'm going to do this for 2 years. I'll see what I can gain from this, what experience, what value I can gain from it, and then I'll look to see where I'm going to go next. And so I would say that the economies and the general global economies, there's lots of uncertainty, but if you're confident in some of your basic skills that you have, if you're a people person, if you're a communicator, a planner, you shouldn't be discouraged or shouldn't be daunted by the fact that you're not looking ahead for 10, 15 years and knowing exactly what you're going to do. Take it 2, 3 years at a time, but do something that you feel is worthwhile, something that you're giving value where you are, and that you're getting something from it in terms of your own personal development.
And you've done that very well yourself throughout your business career, as well as continuing to be involved in the Macedonian community and volunteering and donating. Can you tell us what has motivated you to do that and why that was important?
Well, it's our roots. As I said, we're a small community, a small family, but all coming from that one village in Macedonia. It's what we've been taught to give back, and I don't think you need to wait or should wait until you're completely retired or have nothing else to do before you start getting involved and contributing and helping out.
Thank you. That was excellent advice. We really appreciate you joining us here at the Canadian Macedonian Historical Society. And we wish you and your father good health and continued success.